the fourth episode of the yayQuery podcast, brought to you by TinyCDN and Devotee.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fourth episode of the yayQuery podcast, the Thanksgiving episode. We are brought to you by TinyCDN and Devotee. This week we've got an exciting episode lined up for you guys. We got an interview with Mike Taylor, and we've got a bunch of JavaScript and jQuery news, which we're gonna dive into right away. Why don't you
wait,
more?
Adam, what
Did I fly through something?
What are you wearing?
Oh,
That's like a normal outfit, right?
Right?
Has nothing to do with Thanksgiving or anything like that.
I don't think there's anything normal about that.
Is that like colonial? Are you a revolutionary?
I am incidentally happened to be getting into the spirit of things this week, so I decided to dress up as a patriot.
Oh!
Oh.
Gobble
Naturally.
gobble!
So, happy Thanksgiving, everyone, from the entire yayQuery team.
Gobble gobble, bitches.
Yay! Thanksgiving.
We hope that, you find some time over the holiday weekend to party with us.
Multiple
It'll be
times.
the
So,
best part of your
Rebecca.
Thanksgiving week.
Rebecca, you were going to tell us about another great weekend.
Another great weekend. It's still a few months away, but if you missed it last year, JSConf 2010 is on the horizon, and if your JavaScript foo is strong enough, then you can get $450 admission to the next JSConf in DC in April. Paul and I were at this conference, and I think everybody here has actually signed up already because it was just the best conference of the year this year. So check out JSConf, JSConf.us/2010, and you'll have to do a little hunting to find out how to sign up, but it'll be worth it, and save yourself a few bucks, and come join us at JSConf 2010 in DC. Hosted by Voodoo
We'll be there.
Cookie God. All right. So that is our first and most important piece of news for this week in the world of JavaScript. And Alex, I think you have a little bit of news about another little fun storage.
Yes,
storage
I had actually two announcements. One, I think Adam's going to help me with. We happen to get a phone number for the yayQuery podcast. So if you'd like to contact the yayQuery podcast, you can contact us at 443-4yayQuery. That middle number actually is a 4, so 4434-yayQuery. If you want to sing it, I think it's like dial 4434-yayQuery, something like that. Yeah, I took lots of lessons in singing.
And you leave
off
the last couple of letters.
No, you have to dial those.
Oh.
You have to dial it, or it doesn't work if it's not.
It's like a secret
there's not
code.
enough yay in it, so it's the extra yay of the.
So we need
query.
the extra letters. And so if I call this number, what's going to happen?
You can leave us a message with your name if you'd like contact information in there, so we can get back to you. We can cut that out or whatever.
And maybe you have a question. Maybe you have a jQuery question, or you're writing a plugin. You want to know the best way to do it, or just have like a question on how to handle adding new elements to the DOM and having your click handlers work after and before and everything around that.
Or if you don't have questions about jQuery.
I was going to say maybe you just want to hear Paul Irish's voice. Then you can do that too.
Yes. Regardless of your motive, you can give us a call, and the calls that are appropriate should make it on the air. Unfortunately, Adam is not single right now, so please refrain from calling for that reason. But I'll move on to the next piece of news in the JavaScript world from JSConf to Lawn Chair, which is by our, I wish he was my friend, Brian LaRue. If you're listening, call me later. But Lawn Chair is, I think it's a play on words, because Brian's a pretty funny character. The play would be couch, CouchDB is an awesome document store, pretty different paradigm from the normal storage technique, and he puts it into the web database inside of I think it's just in WebKit or mobile WebKit now. Yeah, so really the only good place that you could use it right now is in like an iPhone specific web app or something, maybe Android, some of those too.
So Alex, can you explain a little bit more about what this is good for?
So a document store inside of a web browser is going to give you persistent data storage across, a session kind of. It's not really done the same way, but essentially you can store native JavaScript objects inside of this store, and you can query it just like you had the object all along inside of your JavaScript. And so it's a really clean and easy way to maintain data across different pages and reloads, and a lot of data too, not just a little bit. It's a little lighter weight than CouchDB, which I would also suggest you all check out. It's a server-side thing, Erlang. This isn't quite as much Erlang. It's kind of written on top of SQLite in the WebKit stuff. But you don't have any of the nasty syntax, so props to LaRue. Check that out. It's on GitHub. Just search for lawn chair LaRue, and it'll be the third result as of Monday, the 24th.
Yeah, and another cool thing about kind of the web database stuff is you can, in addition to like a JSON object or whatever, you can store images via the data URI. So a lot of powerful stuff you can do with this kind of thing.
So basically store like actual media in your local database.
I have to pause you. Paul, who is this who's talking to us?
This is Michael Taylor. He's a
we let somebody else on, huh?
Yeah, we did. JavaScript hacker extraordinaire. Also deep into the HTML5 scene. Been doing a lot of research. I guess let me talk to him for a little bit about it. So, Mike, you and I were actually just down in New York City at an event called Standards Next. It was like a web standards event sponsored by Opera. Really great time, and we both gave lightning talks. And you talked about HTML5 forms and kind of like what's coming in forms and kind of what we're going to see and where browser support is right now. So I guess can you give us an idea of what we're going to get and what the support looks like right now?
Sure. Yeah, so my talk was kind of like you said, a brief overview of the new input types that HTML5 provides. And I think it's super interesting because this, typically the roundup blogs or whatever, they tend to focus on these new elements. We're getting like, ooh, we get header and footer, and we don't really get to look at the new input types. So since there's not a lot of research out there, I wanted to see what kind of support there was for this. And so in addition to new input types, for example, we've got like a date time input. So you click on it and you've got this native widget that perhaps everyone's familiar with the jQuery UI date time picker. It looks like that, but it's native to the browser. In addition to these types of inputs, we've got all these cool new attributes on top of the inputs. And what I wanted to see is the distribution of attributes compared to the new input types. And so I cooked up this support page that Adam already showed, bit.ly HTML5 forms. So you can hit that with your browser, and you'll see a green box. I think it says true if your browser supports that. A red if it's false. Otherwise, you'll get a row of frowny faces if your browser does not support that input type. So
what are for some of these attributes? What are some of the attributes and kind of what do they feature?
Sure. So I think two that are my favorite right now. Autofocus and placeholder. I'll just talk about those. I mean, autofocus, it's such a simple thing, but you see people ask that question from time to time on IRC in the jQuery room. They're like, okay, so I'm going to open up this form in this lightbox or whatever, and how do I get it to have focus? So it's a Boolean attribute you can just throw on your input tag, and then once you load that page, that form has focus. Placeholder also is really cool because you essentially you have this ghosted text on top of your input that you can use in conjunction with a label or as an additional hint, and you don't have to hack that together. I mean, that's a pretty popular like UI pattern, I'd say. There's lots of support out there, and so that's some of the cool stuff in terms of attributes.
So, Mike, what browsers are currently supporting these sorts of things?
Your best bet is Safari 4. Certainly, the WebKit Nightly's got a lot more. Opera, I mean, I should say your best bet is Opera. The latest Opera 10.10 released today, I think, has the most support in terms of native UI, little widgets. So you can click on all the cool little date calendars and stuff like that, little time widgets. So really, it's Opera and WebKit that are kind of ahead of the game. Firefox 3.5 really doesn't have a whole lot. I think they've got. Let me see. We can click through the slides. Like they support really boring stuff like size and read only. Firefox.
What does mobile WebKit? So iPhone developers, any web app iPhone developers, what kind of support is there? Is it the same stuff that's in Safari 4?
Exactly, the same stuff. And so one of the cool things you can look at is Remy Sharp. He visited this page I created in his iPhone and in an iPhone, and he looked at a few of the input types. So you've got input type as number, email, tel for telephone, and URL. The iPhone will actually show you different controls based on what you're trying to input, which is super handy. I think that's a killer feature.
Right.
So yeah, and exactly. So so one of the things also, in addition to kind of just trying to figure out the support, which you can hit that page and kind of see where you're at in terms of what browsers use support. But also, so let's imagine you really want this autofocus feature. I've kind of taken this approach of trying to start this, just start writing plugins to support this stuff natively. So kind of taking the modernizer approach where we're going to test for a feature. If this HTML5 feature is there, let's use it. Great. If not, let's add it with jQuery. And hopefully one day with jQuery UI we can. Or I'm going to try to hack together something for these cool date widgets, date inputs.
Cool.
So, yeah.
So basically, what you're doing there is just detecting. Basically, what you're doing there is detecting that the feature exists, and if it doesn't, then you're trying to layer it on with some sort of JavaScript instead.
Exactly. Emulate it through JavaScript, and there's really nothing that I don't believe that can't be done through JavaScript. Even, I mean, so one of the things that one of the attributes that's supported now or that's added is patterns. So you can throw a regex on top of your input, and it'll do client-side validation. You don't have to, use the validate plugin, for example. The browser will do that for you. But in the meantime, until that's supported across the board, we can kind of supplement that with the validation stuff we write day in and day out.
Right.
And in that case, you're actually just using that attribute to and using that attribute to drive the JavaScript, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's the goal. So you can write today. You can start writing this markup, creating it, and it's kind of future-proof that way. So I can write input type equals tel, pattern equals, and I can do my regular expression testing for numbers. And then in the plugin or through the JavaScript, I can just query the pattern attribute on that input and use that. So yeah, I think that's the ideal, so you don't have to go back as soon as that's supported and say, oh, now we have to re-add this to all our sites, but it's just there.
And that falls back to a text element, just a text input.
It does, yes, yeah.
Awesome.
So your
So
browser
Mike,
won't
it seems. Oh.
explode. Go ahead.
I was gonna say it seems like you have like a long, beautiful relationship with HTML5. Can you tell us about how you and her met? You and she met?
My wife's asleep, so yeah, this is it's just something I got started with, and I think because it's like the Wild West, right? There's so much, like there's this gigantic document. So Pete LePage at the Standards Next, he liked to bring up the fact that if you tried to print the spec, it'd be 900 plus pages. Like that's supposed to terrify us and make us think it's okay that we don't know what's in there.
It works for Senate healthcare bills.
Yeah. Precisely. I mean, and that's probably okay as a designer or a front-end developer. Like if you don't read how to implement these inputs, that's cool, but maybe not the best excuse for a vendor of the most used browser ever. But so there's just so much unknown and so much undocumented, and so for me it's kind of this fun challenge to dig through this spec and kind of just try to learn these things that nobody knows yet. It's like a quest for knowledge type stuff.
Yeah, we did. You said Pete LePage was talking at the Standards Next thing. Did he bring up any of the IE9 news or talk about any of the implementing any of the HTML5 standards at that, Paul or Mike?
Yeah, actually he did. So Pete LePage, he's the program manager for IE Internet Explorer. He talked mostly about IE8. Talked a little bit about IE9. A lot of audience questions naturally, and a few things came out. Well, we heard a few things about IE9 in this past week. One is that it's doing better on the ACID test than the ACID 3 test. It went from passing 20 tests to passing 32.
Woo!
I mean, it's absolutely like deplorable when you compare that to
It's
everything else.
a 50% improvement.
But it is. I mean, yeah,
it is.
Sure. And they're going to be using a technology called direct write when they render out text, and Firefox, the Gecko engine is looking to actually use that as well. That's going to make a lot crisper text, and it's going to be one of the things that drives adoption of @font face in CSS3, because right now it's kind of the rendering quality is pretty iffy on Windows.
Right.
And then we also learned that border radius is going to be supported in IE9 finally. But what's interesting is that border radius will be supported without a vendor prefix, so it won't be like -ms border radius. It'll just be border radius, as it's already a spec, so they're just going right at it.
Awesome. So
we heard a few questions asked about some things. Someone asked about Canvas, and Pete LePage said, we will implement it in a reasonable time.
So he said nothing.
But he didn't. Yeah, I mean, he indicated that they want to implement it, but he didn't commit it. Commit to it for IE9.
Maybe in like IE11. Like
yeah. 11 sounds good.
I hope it sneaks in as a surprise, but really we don't know.
Cool.
But yeah, I mean, it was a good talk, and it was really good to hear a representative of Microsoft really speak out, and it's encouraging to hear that they're really on board with standards and specs and all that.
It's cool that they're even at a Standards Next type conference, which is it's
Fair
pretty
enough.
big difference from the past where they just ignored and tried to set the standards themselves.
Yeah.
So it's good progress, even if it's small steps.
Cool. All right. So I guess we will sign off Mike Taylor for now. We thank you for joining us to talk and give us the lowdown on HTML5 forums. So thanks very much,
thanks
Mike.
a lot.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Peace.
Say hi to the baby.
I will.
All right.
Definitely. Check out Mike Taylor on Twitter and learn a lot for sure.
Yay, Mike.
Okay, so we'd like to announce the first official yayQuery plugin.
Woo!
Woo! Right. So I was actually at Music Hack Day, which is an event put on in Boston just this last weekend. And it was a really great collection of just like hackers and music makers, and it was really kick-ass. A lot of people playing with different APIs from EchoNest and NPR and Last.fm and different stuff, and I got to work with Hype Machine and Songkick, and we made this really cool thing. And I also worked on this this jQuery plugin, and so it's the yayQuery sing-along plugin, and basically it's a way of annotating the HTML5 audio and video elements, so you can trigger elements to be shown and hidden at a start and stop timestamps while an HTML5 media element plays.
Much like subtitles or a sing-along, right?
Or a sing-along. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
but is there a bouncing ball?
That's on the
the
feature list.
It's it's on the to-do, and we'll
on the
see it in the
roadmap.
2.0.
All right.
For
all
sure.
Right. For sure.
But we don't have it yet. But you guys are going to see this at github.com/yayQuery, and you can check it out and play with it, because it's a lot of fun. We'll have a link to it here. And speaking of plugins, Alex,
It's time for
it's the plugin of the week, and it's really great. It's the plugin of the week. Yeah.
All right, this week's plugin of the week is JQ Slick Wrap.
So slick.
It is
slick.
It is very slick indeed. I am quite impressed. It is known as the Pixel Perfect Prose plugin, a tongue twister,
right there. Yeah.
That's
if
an
you will.
alliteration.
Yeah, that's what that is. So it is in version 0.1.1, which is obviously one of the later versions. They start high and they go low. It might be wrong
sounding.
But anyways, it is a brand new plugin this week, and it is pretty nifty. It covers the case of whenever you have a left-hand image, or not necessarily left-hand, just like a floated image, yes, and you want your text to wrap around the image. Now, if you have a square image, we can do this pretty well. However, when you have a rounded image or an image with a shape, a star from the leftover of a star wipe or something, you can really see a lot of white space in the normal case, because it's just a square cutoff of where your square image is. So what JQ Slick Wrap does is it takes a canvas element, it draws the image into the canvas element, it detects the edges, and then rewrites the image using the canvas.toData URL, and then places the text around the edges exactly. So if you have a curved edge, you're going to have curved text going around it. So AJ's example would be the normal case, and that's before, and this would be after. So it's going to curve around. This is going to be jwf.us/projects/JQ SlickWrap. It is pretty nifty. Do you guys have any comments on it?
Yeah, no, it's a really hot thing, and we've seen like more CSS-based solutions to this before, but this is the first time that someone's been able to automate this, and actually, I mean, you drop in any image, and it just will work because it's detecting on the fly the shape of the image. So it's really impressive.
So, just random question that nobody may know the answer to. Does this work with Xcanvas, the Canvas support for IE, or any idea?
No, I don't believe it does. As far as I know, Xcanvas does not support toData URL right now.
But it could probably be hacked in if any of you guys. It's not something that's impossible, I don't believe, creating a data URL. But it's a challenge. It's a yayQuery challenge to implement something that can do toData URL with Xcanvas, so we can get this even in IE. But the graceful degradation is just you get a square square wrap, and that's okay.
Right.
You know, that's pretty good. This plugin, by the way, was written by Jason Feinstein. That's the best I can pronounce that. Feinstein. He also wrote the JQ Reflect plugin, if you have seen that. And his Twitter URL is @JasonWyatt, WYATT. So that's Twitter URL. That's
Very cool.
Sweet.
Adam,
All right.
I think it might be time.
For some hidden enhancements.
They're hidden enhancements. What? They're little tiny things you never thought you'd see. Oh.
All right. So, this week we're going to talk about, in the spirit of Thanksgiving, which was a celebration of the New World, we're going to talk about the jQuery function map, which is available as both a jQuery collection function and a utility function on the jQuery namespace. The map function is used to iterate over a set of objects or a set of elements and then return an array. So when would you need to use map? One case is where you have a bunch of elements and you want to get all of their height or width. If functions like that tend to only return a single value for the first element in the set, which is sometimes not what you're after. You can use map to return you an array of widths. Now, if you're doing that on a set of elements, something to keep in mind when you use jQuery fn map is that you're going to end up with an array that is itself a jQuery array, which means that if you try and do something like join or sort on it, it's not going to happen because you'd be talking to the jQuery object. So if you want to get at it, you need to use the get method like that, and then you can do normal array methods on it.
So Adam,
go ahead.
Adam, so you're saying that you basically, if you want to get an array, like a real array, you're not always going to get that? Like, why is that?
If you're using the utility map function, which you can find at docs, jQuery.com/utilities/map, then you're going to just start with an array and then get back an array. If you're trying to filter an array, you can use .grep.
Whoa.
Which is a hidden enhancement in and of itself.
But also can be found at docs.jQuery.com/utilities. A great place to explore for fun and profit.
So, Adam, are you saying there's a excuse me? Are you saying there's a map method on a jQuery object, and there's also a map method just on the jQuery namespace itself?
Much like after and before Columbus's voyage to the New World, there are two different maps that we're working with here. When would you want to use the... what's another use case for the jQuery collection map? Let's say you have a whole set of checkboxes, and you want to submit the values of all those checkboxes as one value to an AJAX post. If you map through the checkboxes in a form, you get back an array, you do the get on it, you join it together, and you've got this neat array of checked values. It's something I see people asking for all the time, and in the spirit of Thanksgiving, we are sharing it with you.
I have two comments on map. I have seen it perform actually a little slower than looping through each of the objects. I would test your use case because I'm sure it varies, but it's not necessarily. Don't think that just because it exists that it's more performant. It can be less performant in some cases, if not all. But I don't quote me on that. Also, just to clarify, there is only one map function. The one on the base jQuery function is just called on the FN with a couple of parameters already filled in for you. So
interestingly enough,
yeah, same function inherently.
Both were maps of the same world.
Yes, there you go. That's exactly it.
So why don't we move on to one of our favorite segments?
All Irish's jQuery.
Anti-pattern for performance of the week.
Bum, bum.
Okay, this week's anti-pattern. It's something that we very commonly do, and it's wrapping our this keyword with the $sign. So inside a callback or inside event handler, we'll oftentimes wrap this with the dollar function, and then we'll just like use it, to traverse, and then we'll use it again to bind, and then we'll use it to do something else, and that's all well and good. But a more performant way of using this is to cache that selection. So caching selections you probably have heard of before, and it makes a lot of sense. It makes more sense, especially when you're doing a CSS selection. But inside an event handler, if you're just going to be reusing the $this again and again, you should just say var $this equals $paren this, right? And so you're just caching out a reference to your this object wrapped in jQuery, and you'll just use that over and over and over again.
Would you say that cache rules everything around you?
Cream, dollar bills, y'all.
Would you say that was a deck of cards?
Oh no, man, these are bills,
Cash
man.
money.
Oh, that's money. That's money.
That is serious money. That's like what, $5 worth of what?
They are $5 worth of Singaporean dollars.
Yeah, so
wow.
$5 worth, huh?
We also wanted to state that Wu-Tang has no official connection with the yayQuery podcast, although to any Wu-Tang members watching out there, if you're interested in sponsorship, please contact us on 443 for yayQuery. That is a wrap, so that ties in nicely. So there you go. That's all we're going to say.
And so today, we'd also like to start a new segment, the Beginner's Corner. Rebecca. Rebecca, please tell us something that our beginner jQuery developers can really put to use now.
Well, Paul, let me tell you, you'll often see that in various examples on the web and whatnot, you'll see people putting their scripts into the head of their HTML document. And that's all fine and good and cool, and it works and whatnot. But I just wanted to put a little shout out there for putting your scripts down at the bottom of your HTML document instead. So instead of putting your script tags up in the head, just move them down to right before your body tag closes. And it's actually going to make your page more performant. I don't know what Adam is doing, but involved.
He's moving from the head to the bottom.
Head to the foot. That's what Adam is doing. All you people on the audio version of this are totally missing out. So I just want to just put in a little plug for moving your scripts from the head of your document down to the foot. If you check out Steve's...
Rebecca, what kind of benefits do you gain from this change?
Well, Steve Souders says to do it, and so that's why we do it.
Done.
Oh.
You know?
Good enough.
It's more than just Steve Souders says to do it. It's that Steve Souders actually has a point. When you load JavaScript into your HTML document, it's a blocking operation. So when the browser goes and asks the server for the HTML page, and it gets the HTML page back, and it finds the script tag, and then it's like, oh, damn, I can't do anything else until I read the script tag. I have to parse it, and I have to execute it, and it might have a document right in it, so I don't dare do anything else. And so basically what happens if you have your JavaScript in the head of your document is your page stops loading until it loads the JavaScript. And God forbid if you have 10 JavaScript files up there, that's going to take a long time to actually come into your page. So put your scripts at the foot, and like we talked about in episode 2, the third yayQuery episode, check out minification and combination so you can actually reduce the number of files that you're loading into your page.
Right, and we'll talk about it probably in more detail in a future week, but I believe this week Kyle Simpson at Getify is releasing the Lab.js plugin, which even goes further. It's not really a beginner's move, but I just wanted to give that a shout out since that's being released this week.
There are all sorts of tools to help you optimize the loading of your JavaScript, but probably the most important immediate thing you can do is move your script to the bottom of your page, to the bottom of your HTML.
And one thing I'll add on to that, which is we as jQuery developers are so used to using the document ready function. If your scripts are at the bottom, your document basically is ready at that point. So you can basically queue off all your execution immediately without any document ready there, and you'll probably see a slight performance boost by just calling it straight rather than waiting for document ready, as long as all your stuff is down at the bottom.
Right, and the bottom line is if you're already using document ready, which you should be anyway, if you're already using document ready, if you're not interspersing your scripts throughout the page, then it shouldn't be a big deal to move your script includes down to the bottom of the page. You know, put your jQuery script include down there, and then whatever else you need to require for your application.
So you mentioned moving scripts to the bottom of the page. So why don't I move my CSS from the head to the foot? Why not?
No. The page actually needs the CSS as early as possible. It's like the exact opposite of JavaScript. So the page needs the CSS as early as possible so it can figure out what the heck the page looks like. The JavaScript is really to figure out how the page works, but the CSS needs to be up at the head and should be as early as possible so the page can start rendering. And last thing I want to add about that is make sure that if you have CSS and JavaScript, make sure there's some space between them, because if you have CSS and then JavaScript, then you get all sorts of blocking operations, and it's just all badness for your page performance. So yeah, check out the Steve Souders book, High Performance Websites and Even Faster Websites. Lots of good
Even
stuff.
Faster Websites. Very, very good.
Yay.
Cool. Thanks, Rebecca.
And stay tuned for Even Faster Fast Websites.
Even faster, fast websites from yayQuery. Yeah, we'll be talking about performance a bunch more, I'm sure.
He kind of dug himself into a hole with those book names because it's like he can't release any more now.
Got the Greyhound,
the fastest website.
The Greyhound and the Antelope, and like, what's next?
The fastester of the fastest, most web-paging, fastest.
Ever.
Steve Souders at 90 is going to be very tired of his book titles.
Ludicrous speed.
Ludicrous speed. Okay.
Right. So
let's get out of here.
Let's go.
That's it from the yayQuery podcast. Thank you to devotee.com, devot-ee.com for all your expression engine needs, and to TinyCDN, content delivery for the masses.
And I'd also like to say, if you are listening to this right now, if you go on Twitter and tweet using jQuery Enlightenment, yayQuery, and Singalong, those 4 words anywhere in your tweet, if you're one of the first 3 people to do that, you will win a free copy of the jQuery Enlightenment ebook by Cody Lindley. Excellent book for beginning, intermediate, advanced jQuery developers. There's a lot of stuff in there. yayQuery highly recommends it, and if you tweet now, it will be yours.
And Paul's not just saying that because he was a technical editor on it, I imagine. No. All right, no, it is good. We do highly support Cody. And I think we're going to leave you with that, along with our best turkey impressions and a Jonathan Neal song.